July 30th, 1944. A narrow courtyard off Marszałkowska Street, Warsaw. Sun muted by chimney smoke. The air heavy with coal and the sour metallic tang of spilled oil. Steel-shod boots clicked against cobblestone. A ragged poster of the Führer peeled like a dying leaf against a brick wall. In the shadow of a collapsed balcony, a young woman moved like water around obstacles. Kasia Kowalska, 22, hair braided tight, a faded gray scarf tied at her throat, a messenger's satchel slung low and heavy with folded orders and ration coupons. Two German soldiers lounged by a doorway, helmets tucked back, their MP40s resting across knees. One, an Unteroffizier with a neat mustache, flicked a cigarette and grinned as he watched Kasia pass. "Look," he said, voice carrying. "The little courier thinks she is a hero." The other, a Gefreiter with mud on his leggings, barked a laugh, the sound brittle as broken glass. Kasia felt the rib of their laughter before their words reached her. She kept her head down, boots precise, breath even. Her fingers brushed the crate of an abandoned bicycle pump where a hidden Walther lay wrapped in oilcloth. She did not slow. Behind her, the embers of the resistance. A network of hushed radios, code-stitched armbands with the Kotwicka, names traded in whispers, had taught her how to vanish into the city's noise. But a single throwaway taunt, "The girl who carries papers," struck like a stone, set her jaw. In that courtyard, mocked and counted out, something hardened behind Kasia's calm eyes. A decision she would soon make that would not be about paper at all. That same night, in the basement of a ruined townhouse on Wilkes Street, candlelight trembled over maps, rifles, and faces worn by hunger. The walls smelled of damp lime and gun oil. Kasia knelt beside Captain Rona, real name unknown, as he traced lines on a creased city plan with a gloved finger. "The uprising will begin at 1700 hours, August 1st, he whispered. "Every unit must be ready. Every message must reach its cell." Kasia's pulse thudded like artillery in her ears. She was no longer just a courier. Rona's eyes lifted to hers, sharp, calculating, and slid across the paper toward her satchel. "You'll take the last orders to Mokoto. If they fail to receive them, the southern front collapses." She nodded once, gripping the strap tight enough to leave a bruise on her palm. Around her, the room stirred, the click of bolts being checked, the hush of boots laced tight. These weren't soldiers of a formal army but bakers, students, nurses, tram drivers, all dressed in mismatched khaki and civilian coats. Yet in their eyes was something the occupiers couldn't standardize: defiance. As Kasia rose to leave, a gust from a shattered window fluttered the white and red armbands on the table, Poland's band colors, ready to be worn again. She tucked one into her coat, close to her heart. Above ground, the curfew siren began its long, metallic cry. The city seemed to hold its breath. In the flicker of that moment, Kasia felt no fear, only a grim, electric purpose. Tomorrow, Warsaw would burn. But before it did, it would rise. August 1st, 1944, 16:58 hours. Warsaw held its breath beneath a gray, swollen sky. From the rooftops to the tram lines, from courtyards to cellars, people froze, hands on triggers, eyes on clocks. 2 minutes until W hour. 2 minutes until occupation turned into uprising. Kasia crouched behind a tram at the corner of Marszałkowska and Alege Jerozolimski. Her satchel was gone, the messages already delivered. In its place, she carried a captured MP40, its weight foreign but steady in her grip. Beside her, a boy barely 17 checked his pistol and muttered a prayer. Across the street, a woman in a nurse's armband held her breath, waiting for the signal. Then, a single gunshot cracked through the city like lightning splitting stone. For a heartbeat, silence. Then chaos. Polish banners burst from windows. Grenades rolled under German trucks. Rifles fired from attics. The entire city, block by block, came alive with defiance. Kasia leapt from cover, firing short bursts toward a machine gun nest at the intersection. Brick dust exploded around her. A young man fell beside her, a crimson bloom spreading through his white shirt. She didn't stop, dragging him behind a doorway, shouting for the medic. The German soldiers who had mocked her days before stumbled into the open, confusion on their faces as the paper girl led men through the barricades. "Forward!" she yelled, her voice cutting through gunfire. "For Warsaw!" Smoke rose into the clouds. Church bells rang wildly, unbidden. The city, starved, broken, brutalized, was alive again. And at its heart stood Kasia, the courier who became a commander, the girl they had laughed at, now the face of rebellion. By the third day of the uprising, the city had transformed into a fortress of rubble. Buildings became barricades. Tram cars, overturned and chained together, marked new front lines. The smell of cordite, soot, and blood filled the air, clinging to every brick. Kasia now led a small platoon under the banner of Battalion Zaska. Her once gray scarf was blackened with smoke, her hands raw from hauling ammunition crates through cellars and sewer tunnels. The girl who once delivered secret notes now carried commands shouted over the roar of German artillery. They held Śródmieście, the very heart of Warsaw, a labyrinth of shattered apartments where every window hid a rifle barrel. "Hold until nightfall," she ordered, crouched beside a wounded fighter whose uniform was nothing more than torn trousers and a Polish eagle pin. He nodded, jaw clenched, pressing a rosary into her palm before slipping away. From the opposite end of the street, German tanks advanced, their treads crushing glass and corpses alike. Kasia's fighters crouched low as she raised a captured Panzerfaust. Her heartbeat synchronized with the whine of the approaching metal beast. She whispered under her breath, not a prayer but a promise, and fired. The explosion swallowed the street. The tank shuddered, flames bursting from its turret. Her comrades cheered, a ragged cry that cut through the thunder of war. For a fleeting moment, she saw the impossible, the German soldiers retreating, the Black Eagle retreating from the white and red. But she also saw what victory cost. The bodies in the street, the silence in the stairwells, the city dying even as it fought to live. Still, Kasia lifted her rifle, face streaked with ash. "We don't surrender," she said hoarsely. "Not now. Not ever." By late August, the surface of Warsaw was a graveyard, its skyline a jagged silhouette of smoke and twisted iron. German bombers screamed overhead, pounding every district that dared to raise the Polish flag. Those who survived the shelling retreated underground, into the sewers, the arteries of a dying city. Kasia led her surviving fighters down into the darkness near Plak Krasinskich. The air was thick and foul, carrying the stench of oil, rot, and death. Their boots splashed through ankle-deep water as they followed a faint chalk arrow drawn on the brick wall, their only guide. Above them, muffled explosions rolled like thunder. Behind her, Private Merrick coughed blood into his sleeve. A teenage nurse, Anya, steadied him, whispering that they'd reach the old town soon, where the resistance still held. Kasia said nothing. Her voice had grown quiet, but her eyes, those same eyes the Germans once mocked, still burned with the stubborn fire of command. They reached an iron ladder. Kasia climbed first, pushing open the manhole cover just enough to glimpse daylight, or what was left of it. German patrols stalked the ruins. A tank smoldered in the distance. Suddenly, a shout. Flashlights cut through the gloom. The enemy had followed them. "Run!" she hissed. The tunnel filled with gunfire, deafening in the confined space. Bullets sparked off stone. She turned, firing back into the dark, buying seconds for her people to escape. When the last magazine clicked empty, she drew the Walther she had once hidden in that bicycle pump long ago. One bullet left. Kasia climbed into the light, smoke curling around her face, and vanished into the ruins of the old town. September 2nd, 1944. Warsaw burned. Entire districts, Walla, Okota, the old town, were nothing but cinders and bones. The uprising that had once echoed with hymns and shouts of "For Poland!" now whispered only through the crackle of flames and the distant clatter of boots. Kasia stumbled through the ruins of Puna Street, her uniform torn, her rifle gone. Around her lay the remnants of her unit, boys and girls she had once led through laughter and gunfire alike. Now only silence. Her breath came shallow, chest tight from smoke. Somewhere behind her, the German loudspeakers blared, "Poles, surrender. Resistance is futile." She ducked into the shattered remains of a church, the altar half collapsed beneath rubble. A single stained glass window still clung to the frame, cracked but glowing faintly in the firelight. She dropped to her knees, the weight of 2 months pressing down, hunger, death, loss. In her pocket, the white and red armband was stiff with dried blood. Outside, footsteps. German soldiers, the same type who once jeered at her in that courtyard, now moved cautiously, rifles raised. One of them called out, "Madchen, come out or we shoot." Kasia stood slowly, her face streaked with soot, eyes hollow but unbroken. She stepped into the doorway, hands lifted slightly, not in surrender, but defiance. "You can destroy the city," she said, her voice raw, "but not our spirit." A burst of gunfire answered her words. When the smoke cleared, she lay where she fell, the armband still visible against the ash. The uprising would be crushed within weeks. But the legend of the girl who defied mockery, who carried messages, rifles, and hope, would spread like an ember through the rubble, whispered in the dark by those who survived. Warsaw would rise again, and so would her name,